sales trainer who's taught his proven sales systems to thousands of professionals around the world. For over 14 years, he's been sharing his proven sales, increasing ideas with people all over the world. And what I love what he says is he really does believe it's about service. He's worked with companies like Bell Atlantic, Mary Kay, Chrysler, Icon, Lexus, just to mention a few. So let's give a warm welcome to Eric Lofholm.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Turn to the person sitting next to you, give him a big high five, tell him thanks for being here today. You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm excited to be here and talk about my favorite subject, although it may not be your favorite subject, which is sales. How many of you here are a little uncomfortable when it comes to selling, asking for the order, asking for the money, making calls, right? A lot of you in the room, and let me ask you this, what if we could create a paradigm shift in the way that you thought about sales to where you could actually, this is going to sound crazy to some of you, but what if you could let go of sales resistance and embrace sales now and for the rest of your life? How many of you would be excited about that by a show of hands? How many of you recognize that if you did improve your sales skills, it would help you in whatever your big goal, vision, or dream is with your life, the sales skills would help you by a show of hands? That's right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's possible that you're going to experience a breakthrough. I've opened up a lot of talks with this simple idea is there's nothing more powerful than a good idea whose time has come. And have you ever had that experience where you listen to a speaker and they share the exact message that you need to hear? How many of you have had that experience in your life? That's right. And it's possible, even if you resist sales, that the information I'm going to share with you today could make a tremendous difference for you in your life. And what it really has to do with is what you make sales mean. And I'm going to give you a personal development 101 concept that's very applicable to what we're talking about here. A lot of you probably are familiar with this idea. And it goes like this: things only have the meaning that we give them. How many of you heard that concept? Things only have the meaning that we give them. So if you have resistance to selling, I'm going to suggest you're not resisting sales. You're resisting the meaning that you attach to selling. And if you're open to that, that could create a whole shift in your thinking. Because what I'm suggesting is you're not actually resistant to selling, you're resistant to the meaning that you attach to it. So what if we create a new meaning to sales that you could be comfortable with? Everything could change, and it could happen like that. You see, selling is simply a style of communication. This is my view on it. It's simply a style of communication that increases the likelihood that you get a yes. In a moment, you're going to raise your hand. All right? Selling is simply a style of communication that increases the likelihood that you get a yes. Just out of curiosity, by a show of hands, how many of you would like to get more yeses in your life? By a show of hands. I knew you were going to raise your hand. If you're taking notes, jot this down in your notes. Prediction is a form of power. Prediction is a form of power. Selling is simply a language that any of us can learn. And any of you in this room can learn it. And a little bit of background about myself. I'm from the Bay Area here. I was born and raised in Marin County, and so it's nice to be back here in the Bay Area. And when I left Marin in 1988, I was very successful right out of high school. My very first job I ever had right out of high school, I made over $100,000 right out of high school, very first job. Would you all agree that's pretty good?
Yeah.
Pretty good, right? Yeah, so you're like, awesome. Yeah. Well, I didn't make over $100,000. That would have been a great story. Right? I made over 100,000 hamburgers. I was a cook at McDonald's. And I was a cook up in Auburn on your way to Lake Tahoe or Reno. Lincoln Way exits the last major area, the gas up and fast food and whatnot. So if you were there in the late 1980s and you stopped at the McDonald's there, I might have cooked you a hamburger. And I was going to community college at the time. And how long are you supposed to go to community college for? Supposed to go for 2. I went for 5 years and never graduated. Still a couple of units shy of my AA degree. So I was not exactly on the fast track to success. My life was headed nowhere. I had no goals, no direction. I was just literally wandering aimlessly through life in my early 20s, and everything changed for me, and I experienced a turning point. And I ended up going to work for a multi-millionaire real estate investor, and if you're familiar with the show The Apprentice with Donald Trump, I had an apprentice-like experience in my early 20s, where I went to work for this multi-millionaire real estate investor, and I thought I was going to learn real estate. And when I got there, he said, "You're going to do a sales job for me." And so I had no background in sales. I was his bottom producer the entire first year that I worked there. I was put on quota probation. I was told, "Eric, if you don't hit your quota this next month, we're going to let you go." I was about to get fired from my job, and I met a real-life Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you remember Obi-Wan from Star Wars, I met a real-life Obi-Wan Kenobi in the area of selling, and he began to mentor and coach me, and he taught me his system. And within 60 days of being on the verge of being fired from my job, not only did I keep my job, but I became the top producer in my division. I went from worst to first in 60 days. And what I learned from that experience is that selling is a learned skill. So I'm very passionate about providing professional training to people that recognize that they need to improve their sales skills in order to make their goal and dream happen. So I wanted to talk a little bit about collaboration today as it relates to selling. I want to give you 2 quick ideas because I'm very limited on time today. So I want to give you 2 concepts that you could immediately implement to become more successful. And the first is how I ended up in front of all of you today. And I used my collaboration system that's totally duplicatable. And any of you can do this. And so how my collaboration system works is that in traditional selling, we're searching for a lead to deliver a sales presentation to market our product or service. And in collaborative selling, what we're looking to do is, if I'm looking at this person over here, and I'm in traditional sales, I'm going to sell to that person. But in collaborative selling, what I do is, instead of looking at this person, I look behind them. Okay? Instead of looking at this person, I look behind them, and what I'm interested in is their network. So instead of selling to an individual, we're selling by leveraging networks. So when I met Dr. Leslie, I wasn't looking to sell Dr. Leslie my program. Okay, that would have been me looking at her and selling to her. No, I wanted to look behind her, and I wanted to look at her network because I wanted to gain access to her entire network. So do you see how in that example it's more powerful for me to have access to her network as opposed to just her? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so this is selling, leveraging networks. It's a paradigm shift for some of you. It's selling, leveraging networks. So you identify a list of people that you can build these collaborative relationships with. And then what you do, so step number 1 is you need a list of people that you can build a collaborative relationship. So if you're a note taker, just jot that down in your notes. Step 1, build a list of collaborative relationships. Step number 2 is you're going to set up an appointment. I call it a turning over rocks appointment. A turning over rocks appointment. So if I take my young children down to the beach with me, we'll go down to the beach and we might turn rocks over to look, down by the ocean. Turn the rock over and look, is there any sea life underneath there? Is there anything cool to investigate underneath there? So we're just turning over rocks. So I had one of those conversations with Dr. Leslie when we very first met. I wanted to go through my system because I want to gain access to her network. And so we had this exploratory conversation with no outcome other than, is there any synergy here? Is there any way I can support you? Is there any way that you can support me? I didn't go there to close her on anything. I wasn't selling her anything. It was just, it's kind of like, a first date with somebody, right? Let's go have a cup of coffee. Just take a look here to see if there's anything there. Well, I have these types of collaboration conversations all the time. And so then we established that, yeah, there's some synergy here. And then the next step is to set up a second appointment. That's step number 3. You set up a second appointment, step number 3. And what you're going to look for is a small step that's comfortable for both parties. A small step that's comfortable for both parties. So instead of saying at the end of the first date, will you marry me? It's what's a small step that's comfortable for both of us. And I said, I have this weekly interview series that I do. It's called Interview with the Experts. I'd love to have you be a guest on Interview with the Experts. And she said, Eric, that sounds great. And our relationship, it shifted in that moment. It shifted because she recognized, in this case, I was giving first. And that immediately attracted her to want to do business with me. And I think in that moment, she made the decision that I was going to be on the stage. That's how powerful it is. And when we were talking about this last year, she said, Eric, just so you know, this is in 2013, she said, we're doing these events, there's no men speakers. I guess this is the first one where she's bringing out men speakers yet. I would like you to come out and be one of the speakers. I'm honored to be here sharing the stage with Mark, who just spoke, and Dr. John Gray, and it's really a privilege to be here. And then what you do, there's one more step in step number 3. You want a small step that's comfortable for both parties. And you might even use language like that. Let's just explore a small step that's comfortable for both of us. And then one last step is you want to sell the vision. In other words, sell what's possible. So I might have said something like this to Dr. Leslie, you know, what's possible is we could be doing this type of collaborative relationship for the next 32 years. And I was planting that seed in her mind. One of the most powerful human forces on the planet is the power of suggestion. One of the most powerful human forces on the planet is the power of suggestion. So that little formula is how I got on this stage. I do it all the time. I've done a lot of business in that way. And I want to plant a seed for you, if you don't already have this, to have a culture of collaboration within your organization. When I say your organization, that's you and how you do business with other people, even if you work for somebody. A culture of collaboration within your organization. I've got one last specific idea I want to share with you. And back in 2008, anybody in this room other than me, your business and finances were affected, right? Probably all of us, right? And my company was on life support in 2008. We were just humming along, doing great things, and it all came to a screeching halt. And my company lost 70% of its revenues practically overnight. And I didn't know what to do. And I was confused. And so I sought out guidance. And I just said, God, what am I going to do? How am I going to succeed in this economy? And the answer came to me. And it came in one word. The word collaboration. No instructions. Just one word. Collaboration. It's like, I need a little bit more than that. That's all you're getting, Eric. The word collaboration. So what came to me intuitively was to make a list of people to collaborate with. So what I'm about to teach you right now, I call this the $250,000 idea. I believe for each of you in this room, is one idea is worth an extra $250,000 in business to you between now and the end of your career, if not more. That's a $250,000 per person. I believe this one idea. I'm going to lay it out for you step by step. This will be the final thing I share with you today. So step number 1 of the $250,000 idea, make a list of people that you can collaborate with. Step number 2, so I made my list. I got 132 people on the list. I look at the list and I go, how am I going to build deep, meaningful relationships with 132 people? And what do you think the answer I got was?
One at a time.
That's an excellent answer. That's not what I got. The answer I got was, you don't. It's too many. It just totally overwhelmed me. Looking at this list, I'm like, there's no way to build deep, meaningful relationships with 132 people, because one of the ingredients of a successful relationship is time. One of the ingredients of a successful relationship is time. I don't have time to build deep, meaningful relationships with 132 people. So then I asked myself the question, how many people can I build deep, meaningful relationships with? And the answer I got was 4. 4. So that's step number 2. Go home tonight, make a list of all possible collaboration relationships. That's step number 1. Step number 2, pick your top 4. Pick your top 4. Step number 3, reach out and connect. Okay, when you do step 3 and you reach out to those top 4 people, you're going to apply the first thing that I just taught you. You're going to reach out to them and you're going to set up what kind of an appointment? A Turning Over Rocks appointment. And then at the end of that Turning Over Rocks appointment, then if there's synergy, you're going to set up a second appointment to talk about doing business together. And what are you going to look for when you do that second appointment to talk about doing business together? Small step that's comfortable for both of you. Okay? And then at the same time, sell the vision. It's possible we can do business together for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or whatever your vision is. So I did that, and I reached out to my 4 people. Here's the 4 people on my list, and you'll have to create your criteria. If you implement this idea, you have to decide what's your criteria for your top 4. My criteria was, I was looking for people that had large lists, they had a large network, they were people in the training industry like myself, that didn't do what I did. I thought I would enjoy working with them, I thought they would enjoy working with me. So the 4 people that I came up with, one was Brian Clemmer, second one was Bernie Dorman, third one was Alex Mendozian, fourth one was Laurel Langmeyer. So I wrote those 4 names down. I would have been honestly thrilled if I got 1 yes. Guess how many yeses I got? 4. I got 4. I was shocked that I got 4. So let me just go through it one more time. Step number 1, make a list of all the possible collaborative relationships. You can all do that. How many of you can do it in the next 24 hours, just out of curiosity? Okay, fantastic. Step number 2, you're going to identify your top 4. Step number 3, Reach out and connect, follow the formula that I taught you earlier. Just let the miracles happen. Just let God work it out. Okay? Just let God work it out. And I believe that that will bring you $250,000 or more in additional revenue. I wish I had more time with all of you today. We're really limited on time. One just super easy way to connect with me is on Facebook. I'm a big Facebook guy. I post just about every day. So you can find me there. One way that we can connect. I'll be downstairs for a little while in the VIP. I'm hopeful that you got at least, well, how many of you got at least one good idea for my talk? By show of hands. Fantastic. I'm thrilled that you're able to get some value. I encourage you to take action on the ideas that I shared. And have a great rest of your conference. I'd just like to end by saying God bless. Thank you.